My dear listener, have you ever spent time with someone who used to feel like home, but suddenly it doesn't quite feel the same anymore? You're not angry, they didn't do anything wrong, but the way you connect, it's not enough anymore. And then you start again to wonder, have I have I changed, or have I just started noticing what I used to tolerate? Today's episode is about that shift in a friendship. When your standards of friendship grow and the old connections don't quite fit anymore. See, I think there's a way that we can grow without necessarily feeling like we have to feel guilty. Welcome back, my dear listener. I appreciate you spending the next few minutes with me. You're doing something so powerful just by tuning into this conversation and these considerations. And as always, at the outset, I like to remind you that I am not a therapist. I'm just someone who's walking alongside you in real time, doing the work of building friendships that are rooted in some key values that I esteem highly. Number one, integrity, which is to me the alignment between your values internally and how you act externally. And secondly, intimacy. Intimacy, the brave act of letting yourself be seen and not just liked. And and here's something I want to say right at the outset, and that is you are allowed to grow. You are allowed to want more. You're allowed to reevaluate what friendship means to you without having to feel like you're a bad person. Because growth doesn't make you a cold person or indifferent. Discernment does not mean disloyalty. I think sometimes it just means that you're finally paying attention to what your soul has been asking for all along. There are some key signs, I think, that can help you sense that your values might be shifting, your standards. What does it look like when your standards start to evolve? Like, how do you notice them? I think these signs could look like the following. Like, you could feel um, emotionally unsatisfied after conversations that you once upon a time used to enjoy. Or you could start craving like deeper, more mutual connections, right? Or or you notice that you're always the one who's reaching out, asking questions, creating space, but you haven't really been receiving the same in return. Or you feel yourself shrinking to stay more compatible. You walk away from interactions asking, did I really feel seen in that connection? This does not mean that the friendship is bad, right? It just it just means that it may not meet your current needs anymore. And that's something we often ignore, I think, because naming it oftentimes feels like a betrayal, right? But dear listener, let's name this together, right? You are allowed to let the version of friendship that once sustained you become become a chapter and not a life sentence. But this change, it can oftentimes feel so emotionally charged, right? Like the pain of shifting standards it isn't just about others, is it? It's it's more so about who you used to be. And here's why I think this gets so emotionally heavy. I think our history can cloud clarity, right? We could say, but we've been friends for so long, right? True, but let me remind you, length does not equal depth, right? Time invested doesn't necessarily cancel out present misalignment. It could be identity confusion, perhaps. You could say something like, if I no longer fit here, then who am I now? But as you grow, your relationships reflect your old identity back to you, right? Until they don't. Sometimes it's guilt, right? Guilt. You might say something like, they haven't changed, I have. Does that make me disloyal or similar? I'd say no. It just makes you more self-aware, because your growth is not an indictment of those who haven't evolved in the way that you have. It's more of an invitation to reevaluate what you're carrying and what it's probably costing you now, right? But what do you do with that sense of disconnect that you are experiencing? What happens when you realize an old connection no longer aligns with you anymore? Here are some options that you could consider. See if it fits. Firstly, you could create distance without bitterness. See, not every shift needs this dramatic exit, right? Sometimes you just show up less, reach out less, right? And let that rhythm change accordingly. Secondly, you could name the shift if it feels right. Try saying something like, I've been noticing that I'm in a season where I'm craving more intentional connection, and I'm just realizing that my needs are also changing a bit along the way. See, this could help open space up for honesty without the blame, right? Thirdly, we could grieve the good that we experience. Let yourself miss what you once had and write a letter to that version of friendship that once served you. Honor it, right? And if needed, learn to release it. See, stay open to what's new. As you create this space, new connections will tend to emerge, ones that meet your new standards, ones that mirror who you're becoming now, not just who you once were. See, friendship isn't meant to be static, is it? And neither are we. So let me just remind you, you are allowed to grow beyond what once made you feel safe. You are allowed to want more honesty and more depth and more reciprocity. I mean, you are allowed to evolve, my dear listener, without having to explain yourself to everyone that you outgrow. And the most beautiful thing of this is that when you honor your changing standards, you in essence are making room for relationships that honor your changing self as well. Tomorrow, I'm going to have one final episode in this series this month that I've been focusing on friendship. And we're going to close this series this month with the topic of you not feeling too much. The truth about being deep and longing for more in our friendships. It's kind of like a love letter to the part of you that's been told to tone it down just to belong, right? But until then, go gently, my dear listener. Be kind to yourself, because you're doing far better than you think. Bye for now.